All right, let's just jump right in. If the very thought of getting behind the wheel of a car makes your heart start pounding, you are so not alone. Today, we're going to break down a really powerful blueprint to turn that huge, overwhelming fear into small, manageable steps. This is all about learning to drive brave. I mean, this quote from our source material just captures it perfectly, doesn't it? That exact moment when a simple set of car keys feels like this monumental, impossible challenge. It's a way more common feeling than you'd think, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack right now. So, what is actually going on here? Why does this machine that millions of people use every day suddenly feel like the most dangerous thing in the world to you? Well, I can tell you, it's not a lack of skill, and it's definitely not some kind of personal failure. The answer is actually hardwired right into our biology. See, your brain's number one job above everything else is to keep you alive. So when it senses any kind of potential threat, and that could be a perceived threat like merging onto a busy motorway, it just floods your system with stress hormones. For those of us who get nervous driving, that system is just, well, it's working overtime. It's a feature, not a bug. That's just a little too sensitive at the moment. And this right here just brilliantly illustrates the core of the problem. You look at your goal, maybe it's driving on the motorway, maybe it's just driving to the shops, and it feels like this impossibly high mountain peak. You just don't see a path to get there. But the good news is there is a path, and today we're going to build the stairs. So before we even think about touching the car keys, we have got to lay the right foundation in our minds. There's a simple but really powerful tool for this called UARP, and it's absolutely the first step you have to take before you even think about starting to climb. URAP, it stands for Understand, Rationalize, Accept and Practice. You can think of it like a mental checklist you run through before you even start the physical work. It's all about setting the stage for success by getting your head in the right space first. So, what does this actually look like? Well, first you understand what specifically triggers your anxiety. Next, you rationalize it. You remind yourself, okay, this is just my survival instinct overreacting. Then, and this is a big one, you accept the feeling instead of fighting it. And only after those first three steps are you ready to practice. Notice how practice comes last? Yeah, that's for a very, very good reason. Okay, now that our mindset is prepped, we can start building the actual blueprint, your very own personal fear ladder. This is where we take that vague, overwhelming cloud of fear and turn it into a concrete step-by-step plan of action. So the first step is to figure out your personal traffic cues. Go ahead, grab a notebook, and be brutally honest with yourself. What are the exact situations that make your anxiety spike? It could be anything. The most important part of this is there is zero judgment allowed here. We need total honesty to build a plan that's actually going to work for you. All right, once you've got your list, you rank every single situation on a scale from 0 to 100. And what's so great about this is how it creates a super clear hierarchy. Look, your 10 might just be sitting in the car with the engine off, and your 100 is rush hour traffic on the motorway. This is your personal ladder, and the golden rule here is you never, ever, ever skip a rung. So you've built your ladder, but how do you actually, climb it without falling off and just making the fear worse? Well, you have to follow 4 non-negotiable conditions. Think of these as the rules of the road that make your practice truly effective instead of just plain terrifying. They're called the 4 golden conditions, and their entire purpose is to systematically teach your brain that these situations are not in fact dangerous. This is the framework that guarantees your unlearning fear, which, let's be honest, is the whole point of this exercise. Okay, let's break them down. First, your practice has to be graded. That means you always start on a low, manageable rung of your ladder. Second, and listen up, because this is the one most people get wrong, it has to be prolonged. You have to stay in that situation until your anxiety naturally drops by about half. If you bolt at peak anxiety, you just taught your brain that escaping is what saved you. Not good. Third, it's got to be without distraction. No white knuckling the steering wheel, no blasting the radio to drown out your thoughts. You need to prove to yourself that you can handle it, and finally, repeat it. You do it over and over and over again until that task becomes, well, boring, because you know what? Boredom is the true opposite of fear. Now, all this sounds pretty good in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at a quick story that shows just how this blueprint can completely change someone's life. So this is Jo. When she started out, her fear was so intense, she couldn't even sit in the car as a passenger without feeling completely terrified. Her very first step on her ladder was literally just sitting in the driver's seat with the engine on for 10 minutes. That's it. And this was her destination. By patiently, methodically working her way up that ladder, following those 4 conditions, she eventually made it to the top. She started driving herself to work twice a week completely on her own. She literally reclaimed her independence, one rung at a time. And that brings us to the most important point of all of this. The goal of this entire process is not to become fearless. Fear is a normal human emotion. The true goal is to become brave by changing your relationship with that feeling. This slide just shows that mindset shift perfectly. We're moving away from this old, frankly, impossible goal of curing anxiety and getting rid of all fear. Instead, we are focusing on a much more powerful and achievable goal, changing how we respond to anxiety and learning how to act bravely even when we feel scared. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. Every single tiny step you take up that ladder is a massive victory. It doesn't matter how small the step is or how long it takes you. You are taking control back. You're doing this on your terms, at your pace, and that right there is what makes you brave.